Some psychological life hacks you can do to give you an advantage in situations. I learned this on here a few years ago. For anyone in customer service, or works for many different situations, but CS is a big one, put a mirror behind you at the counter. This way angry customers who approach you will have to see themselves in the mirror behind you, and the chances of them behaving irrationally lowers significantly. No one wants to see themselves act like a dickhead. Chew gum when you're approaching a situation that would make you nervous, like public speaking or bungee jumping. I can't remember where I heard it, but apparently if we are eating something in our brains trip, and it reasons I would not be eating if I were danger. So, I'm not in danger. Has helped calm me a few times. Pay attention to people's feet. If you approach two people in the middle of a conversation, and they only turn their torsos, and not their feet, they don't want you to join in the conversation. Similarly, if you are in a conversation with a coworker who you think is paying attention to you, and their torso is turned towards you, but their feet are facing in another direction, they want the conversation to end. You should check out Carol Kinsey Goman's research on these types of things in the workplace. When you first meet people, try to notice their eye color, while also smiling at them. It might be because you look for a second or two longer, but all I can tell you is that people really respond to it. The physical effects of stress, increased breathing rate, heart rate, etc., mirror identically the physical effects of courage. So, when you're feeling stress from any situation, immediately reframe it. Your body is getting ready to do courage, it's not feeling stress. For interviews, I recommend altering your psychological state beforehand. Tell yourself, I've known these people all my life. We're old friends catching up. I can't wait to see them. Visualize the experience, shaking hands, making eye contact, having conversation. What things can you not to wait to tell them? Hold an open pose, stand with your legs apart, hands on your hips, and shoulders back, while doing this, and smile. This may sound cliché, but you are in charge of your own psychological state, and the power of suggestion is strong. Almost did that once. One summer I picked up a job as a delivery driver at a pizza joint cause my friend worked there. Well, the day that I turned in my application, that friend and I bought some tabs from the manager, who regularly sold all the employees weed. The next day, about 30 minutes after we ate meat, the manager calls asking if I can come in for an interview. I freaked out and made an excuse for why I couldn't come in, forgetting that she was the one that sold the asset to us. She made fun of me for it the next day. In sales, though I guess it could be applied in other ways, once you make the sales pitch, don't say anything else. My boss at an old job was training me and just giving me pointers. I was working at a gym trying to sell memberships. He told me that once I got all the small talk out of the way and presented the prices, that the first person to talk will lose. It didn't seem like a big deal, but it actually worked. Often there were long periods of awkward silence as the person tried to come up with some excuse, but usually they bought. It was quite impressive actually. People will remember not what you said, but how you made them feel. Also, most people like talking about themselves, so ask lots of questions about them. There's been some really good advice in this thread that refines ask about them quite a bit that would be good to incorporate. Stuff like, get them talking on a general topic, movies, music, ask them what movies, music, whatever it was they like, engage them on that, go from there. Offer bits of information about yourself, then bounce it back to them, i.e. the snowboarding suggestion elsewhere in this thread. That was a really good one. Watch out for social cues, that it's pissing the person off. They might be one of the people who really don't like talking about themselves, and if you notice those cues, stop. Your goal is to make them feel good, via engaging them on their most cherished subjects, i.e. themselves, and the things they like the most. This technique is really good for various situations that might otherwise be awkward. For example, when you are trying to draw out a reserved person, how do you do that? Show an interest in them, a genuine one ideally, and go from there. Someone you want to know better in that special boy-girl way. Asking about them is often a really good approach. Trying to get someone to like you in a situation with a power differential, i.e., in a workplace setting, or a job interview, get me talking, ideally about something work-related that makes them feel competent. They will remember how good they felt in your presence, and that will color their perception of you. You're not aiming to be the audience to a monologue, you're trying to find ways in which you can connect with that other person. The ultimate goal is to connect. If you're in a group meeting, and you suspect that someone in there might come after you about something, sit right next to them. They were hoping that the group would provide some sort of herd defense, but if you're right next to them, it can't be anything other than personal. This tends to make them back off, or at least substantially temper what they say. You are in control of your emotions and thoughts. Try replacing some immediate responses. Tell yourself you're happy about something, or you're excited. Eventually your brain will end up believing it. That's the same for being down, and that's why you should never try to diagnose yourself. Saying you're depressed, or have social anxiety would end up with you being more anxious, and more depressed. You won't notice it at first, but over a few months it will have a pretty noticeable effect on your personality. Stand up straight, no slouching, hands out of pockets, and head held up high. It's not just a cliche, you literally feel better, and people around you feel more confident in you. Not always a must, but try to dress well for important occasions, including interviews. If you look good, you feel good, and if you feel good, you'll do good. In a negotiation setting, always start by anchoring, meaning start on a more radical extreme end of what you expect to get. That way, you and the other side can work to that result, rather than you locking yourself out of it. Avoid saying I think, and I believe unless absolutely necessary. These are phrases that do not evoke confidence, and will literally do you no good. When playing a game of cards with casual players, mutter to yourself the exact opposite of what you want to happen. So, if you want your opponent to fold, then mutter, please don't fold, an overwhelming number of times. The opponent will fall for the bait. When feeling anxious, clean up your house apartment. You will feel happier and more accomplished than before. From an academic standpoint, this is mostly just armchair psychology. But from a real-world standpoint, these have all worked very well in my personal and professional lives. Promise yourself you'll never talk shit about other people. Even when the people around you are talking shit, even when you agree with the shit they're saying. You don't have to make a big deal of it, just don't partake in it. Once people get the idea, you're not into saying mean shit about other people behind their backs, the amount of shit they talk around you will decrease. It isn't fun to talk shit, unless everybody's talking shit. Your decision to stop talking shit, and their eventual reaction to you not reciprocating the shit talking will positively affect both of you, as well as your relationship. I don't know, for me, since I made this change in how I interact with people, the amount and quality of my friendships has grown. People will trust you more, if they haven't listened to you gossip about other people. You will be seen as more and more positive person than other friends who do talk shit. The gap gossiping used to fill will be replaced with way more interesting and/or intimate conversation too. I work with mentally disabled children, and have found it highly beneficial to describe their capacities in such a way that I indirectly describe their limitations, as opposed to the reverse. In real-life terms, avoid negative words when pitching something unfavorable to an audience that you want to receive it well. If you can do it in writing, all the better, because you get to pick out your words carefully. Also focus the manner by which you intend to fix things, rather than the problems. Johnny can't even speak in phrases, and only turns his head to you when you say his name, but doesn't make eye contact. He won't sit in a chair for more than a minute, unless you repeatedly tell him to. Nope. Try again. Johnny uses words to communicate, so the next step is to strengthen his skills up to the level of 2-word phrases. He responds to his name by turning, so we're going to work on his ability to maintain eye contact. Johnny is able to remain seated for longer than 1 minute, if given repeated prompting. Which would you rather hear about your kid? This also applies to other types of work. Use it to present anything negative. Works magnificently. Late to the party, but if you're playing beer pong and your opponent is playing like he sold his soul to the devil, all you have to do is ask what he is doing too with his opposite throwing hand. Damn bro, you're playing hella good. What are you doing with your left hand when you shoot? This will make him conscious of his left hand, and he will start messing up almost every time. Drink well, my friends. Make it a practice to get rid of filler words and phrases such as like, you know, etc. Instead, use short pauses to gather your thoughts before speaking, though avoid Shatner-style pauses. Using filler words keys whoever you're talking to, that you are thinking about what you're saying. Leaving them out makes these thinking spots less noticeable, since you are essentially announcing to the world that you are thinking, and makes you seem sure of yourself. If you're into psychological hacks, then you must read Get Anyone to Do Anything, also on iTunes audiobooks. It's a fascinating, easy to understand book written by a psychologist. The hacks are divided up into chapters. How to catch someone out on a lie, for example. Brilliant technique. I gave this to an old manager I used to work with. He was having problems with a board member that hated him and wouldn't agree with any of his suggestions regardless of how good they were. After applying techniques in the book, that all changed. I also used it to get a date with a woman who I considered a way out of my league. It worked, I'm ashamed to say. If you really want something from someone, frame it as an offer, rather than a request. When Teddy Roosevelt was running for president, his campaign printed out 3 million leaflets with a picture of Teddy and a copy of a campaign speech. The campaign then realized that they didn't have the rights to the photo. Instead of explaining the situation to the photographer, which would have given him leverage to ask for a lot of money, the campaign made an offer that they would use the picture, giving the photographer lots of publicity, if the studio paid them $250. The studio paid the money. Navy lifer I worked with taught me the see one, do one, teach one method. The last step is the most vital step for your comprehension. If you are taught a new task at work, most people learn to do the task, and then perform the task. If you find another employee to teach what you just learned, you will comprehend the concept better, and retain the info for much longer. Whenever I train a new associate at work, I ask them to go show another coworker how to do the task they just learned. Magic. I always try to figure out everyone's motivations for what they are doing. Are they trying to take advantage, or are they genuinely trying to help someone? In business situations, who stands to profit? Always follow the motivations and always know who profits. By knowing this, you can protect yourself from being taken advantage of. If you find someone being altruistic, you know who to befriend. When you find yourself in a situation where you're forced to do a job you don't care about, instead of thinking of the job as something you're doing, well, you wait for your one true passion. Just forget about what it means to you, and think instead about doing it well. Making sandwiches to pay the bills. Make really good sandwiches and be friendly. Doing scut work for your co-workers since you're the lowest on the totem pole. Do really good scut work. Sweeping floors. Make your floors the cleanest. If you get your ego out of the way, you'll realize that there's a lot of joy to be found in doing anything well, with passion, integrity, and care for the people who you're serving. And the people around you will recognize you as a passionate, serious, caring person, even if what you're doing isn't what you're truly passionate about. Perhaps more importantly, it will create the habit of excellence. You don't develop that habit by slacking your whole life, and then suddenly being awesome once you reach an imaginary plateau. If you want to build rapport or gain someone's trust quickly, match their body posture and position. If someone is sitting with her legs crossed, cross your legs. If they're leaning away from you, lean away from them. If they're leaning towards you, lean towards them. Mirroring and matching body position is a subconscious way to tell if someone trusts you or is comfortable with you. If you're sitting with your arms crossed and you notice someone else is sitting with her arms crossed, that is a good indicator that you are successfully building rapport with that person. You can use this in any situation where you need to gain somebody's trust quickly. Matching somebody else's body posture will psychologically signal to them that they can be comfortable around you. This can benefit you in any job situation or any interviewing situation, or any situation where you need to gain a person's trust quickly. Did I mention it builds trust quickly? The Benjamin Franklin effect. My favorite psychological phenomenon is cognitive dissonance. It's when you hold two opposing beliefs or values, and it causes what's known as psychological discomfort. When this happens, you'll act or think in a way to ease the discomfort, usually by trying to blend the beliefs' values by changing the way that you think act in terms of one of them. The Benjamin Franklin effect is what happens when you arouse cognitive dissonance in someone that doesn't like you by asking them to do you a small favor. If they do the favor, which they probably will, if it's small enough of a request, then you invoke cognitive dissonance as they hold two beliefs, that they don't like you, but that they are willing to help you out. This results in them trying to resolve this psychological discomfort by creating the belief that they actually like you. So, you can turn your enemies into your friends simply by asking them to do you a small favor. Very cool, very useful. Or at least Benjamin Franklin thought so. For taking tests, always have a water bottle with you and chew mint-flavored gum or have mints on you. An hour of sleep before midnight is the equivalent of 2 hours after midnight with serotonin levels, so try to sleep early and wake early and you'll feel more rested. You're more likely to retain knowledge by spacing out study sessions and getting 8 hours of sleep the night before than cramming and getting less sleep. The things you'll learn from having a biopsychology degree.